Welcome along, fellow time travelers and strange historians. This time around, we're going to travel back in time to check out some of my favorite photos of historic rock and pop star mansions. You're going to see some really cool snaps, some of which you may have never seen before. Before I begin, please like and share this episode and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Now please join me around the campfire. This is Jimmy Page. Jimmy Page is a British musician, a songwriter, and producer, best known, of course, as the guitarist and founder of the legendary rock band Led Zeppelin. This is Aleister Crowley. I know, some people pronounce it Crowley. I'm not saying Crowley. Crowley. Crowley's better. Crowley? Crowley sounds like I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I know it might be Crowley. He may have pronounced it Crowley. Supposedly there are recordings of him pronouncing it as Crowley. But did you ever hear the way Dr. Seuss says his last name? Nobody's saying it the way Dr. Seuss does. Anyway, if you don't know, he was a British occultist, a writer, and a mystic, who is perhaps best known for his involvement in various esoteric and mystical movements, including Thelema. This is the Boleskine House. It is a manor on the southeast side of Loch Ness in the Scottish Highlands. The Boleskine House is located 570 miles north of London. It was originally constructed as a hunting lodge in the 1760s, and it kept being expanded until around 1830. At the time, all the main rooms were situated on one floor. You had the bedrooms, you had a kitchen, you had a lounge and a drawing room and a library, and there was an attic bedroom for servants. Supposedly there was a tunnel linking the house to the graveyard. Aleister Crowley purchased the Boleskine House in 1899. Now you might be saying to yourself, why in the world would he buy that place? Well, I'm going to tell you. Crowley believed that the location was perfect for him to be able to engage in a series of rituals known as the sacred magic of Abramelin, the mage, taken from a book of magic spells, rituals, incantations, and instructions for various occult practices and supernatural activities. This was kind of an interesting ritual. See, among other things, Mr. Crowley needed to invoke his guardian angel. But they are kind of busy sometimes, and they can't just show up at a moment's notice. You can't just snap your fingers and your guardian angel just appears. And so Mr. Crowley needed to spend 6 months preparing. And as part of that preparation, that meant no sex and no alcohol, which is no cakewalk for some people, don't you know? And in addition to that, he needed to summon the 12 kings and dukes of hell. You would think that just having the kings of hell would be sufficient, but no. For this particular ritual, you needed 12 kings and dukes, right? So you needed both. Now, once again, they got their own plans as well. God only knows what kind of activities the dukes and kings of hell have got going on in hell. I mean, there's always something to do, right? And so no one really knows if Aleister Crowley was successful or not in getting the 12 kings and dukes of hell to show up for tea and scones or whatever the heck it is he was doing. And so that's because while he was busy sending out his invitations to the 12 kings and dukes of hell, he got summoned to Paris by the leader of the Golden Dawn. And let's be honest, shall we? I don't care how busy you are in life, even if that includes setting up a brunch for yourself and the 12 kings and dukes of hell, and any other guests who you feel might be good company at the time. No one, and I do mean no one, is going to turn down an invitation to go to Paris, especially during the turn of the century when it was absolutely enchanting. And so off he went. And as a result, all sorts of strange things began to happen at the Boleskine House and continue to happen at the Boleskine House. And so some people say that is because demons showed up, and I guess were probably pissed off, right? That he wasn't there, or who knows? I mean, demons get pissed off easily. And that is because after the 12 kings and dukes of hell showed up, he was supposed to be able to banish them through his rituals. But because he was in Paris, they showed up, they caused all kinds of problems, and he wasn't there to send them back. And so yeah, it's like what Benjamin Franklin said, quote, "Gas, like fish, begin to smell after 3 days," end quote. And so it must have been much worse when the guests are demons from hell. Would you agree with that? If you agree with that, please let me know in the comments below. Either way, Mr. Crowley left the property in 1913, and that brings us to Jimmy Page. He was a collector of Crowley memorabilia, He was fascinated by the guy, and so he purchased the Boleskine house in 1970. At the time that Jimmy Page bought the house, it was just falling apart. I mean, it was just a nightmare. But Jimmy Page thought, well, maybe this is a good place to write songs, yeah? And so that's why he bought it. And so he began to make arrangements for the house to be restored, but he really didn't spend much time there. In fact, he asked a childhood friend of his, Malcolm Dent, to be able to move in and supervise renovation and pretty much live there, I guess, rent-free. Now here's what Malcolm Dent said, quote, "It was a wreck. It had been more or less abandoned. There had been at least one fire there, parts of the building were missing, and it had been badly patched up. The grounds, which at one point had been very nicely laid out, were gone to hell." If only he knew how right he was. Jimmy Page did put the house on the market for £250,000 in 1991, and it sold in 1992. The Boleskine house suffered even more fire damage in December 2015 and again in July of 2019. The house is now in the process of being completely restored. In fact, the Boleskine House Foundation took over ownership of the estate at that time. In full disclosure, I am one of the financial supporters of this effort. So check out the link below to learn more about the restoration of the Boleskine house. So what do you think of the Boleskine house? If you were rolling in dough, would you buy and live in a place like that? I gotta tell you, I'm not particularly impressed with the house itself, but the view is incredible. At this point, I'd like to thank you for joining me on this time travel adventure to check out some of my favorite photos of historic mansions owned by rock and pop stars. If you want to see more like this, please let me know in the comments below. You could even ask me about specific homes and photos that you'd like for me to discuss. Kindly remember to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell because there will be more videos like this one, and I hope you check those out too. Please check out the links below to learn how to support my research and productions. Specifically, I'd really appreciate it if you could become a member of my channel and or join me on Patreon. You could also leave a super thanks in the comments below. Kindly be kind to all non-human animals and please don't eat them. They don't like that. Remember, for the benefit of compassion for all living things and their own health, all of the Beatles chose a plant-based diet. And please do yourself a favor and go to a local shelter and adopt a cat or a dog. You and they will be very glad that you did. Until next time, I wish you safe travels on all your journeys.